Thank you, Chairman Spratt, Ranking Member Ryan, members of the House Budget Committee. It's a pleasure to be back before you, this time as a private citizen with my partner and boss, Pete Peterson. Today, the Peterson Foundation is issuing a publication entitled The State of the Union's Finances. This citizen guide provides a clear and compelling picture of the nation's true financial condition and longer-term fiscal outlook. Every member of Congress, every senator, every cabinet official, every presidential candidate, and yes, the President and Vice President will receive a personal copy. It's also available on our website, which is www.pgpf.org. While the graphics and tables in this book look nice visually, they present an ugly picture fiscally. As the cover demonstrates, based on historical tax levels and absent meaningful entitlement spending and tax reforms, the United States will face debt burdens in the future that would make the U.S. look like a third world nation from a public finance perspective. What do we need to do? First, as I've testified before, we need to provide more transparency in connection with our current accounting and budgeting processes. Increased transparency should involve some restructuring of the way the current budget is prepared and presented to the Congress and the President. From a financial reporting perspective, among other things, the government needs to recognize that the bonds and the so-called trust funds should be deemed to be liabilities. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either they're a commitment of the United States or they're not. If they are, they're a liability. And it should place more emphasis on fiscal sustainability and intergenerational equity. In addition, a summary annual report of the nation's finances should be issued each year, and a longer-range fiscal sustainability report should be issued by our government every 4 years, as in the case of most industrialized nations who are focused on the future. I've included in Exhibit 1 of my testimony a summary of the types of reforms that are needed. In addition to the above steps, we need to reimpose tough statutory budget controls on both the spending and the tax side of the ledger. After all, both sides of the books contribute to our nation's bleeding bottom line. In my view, the Congress also needs to consider adopting biennial budgeting and appropriations processes, and it needs to provide better recognition of the difference between capital expenditures and operating expenses while providing appropriate safeguards to prevent mischaracterization. Beyond the budget and appropriations processes, in my view, the regular order for addressing complex and controversial reform legislation, especially entitlement reform legislation, but not solely that, is not adequate to deal with the number and magnitude of the reform efforts that we must address if we expect to return to a more prudent and sustainable path in a reasonably timely manner and before a real crisis hits. As a result, I support the need to establish a capable, credible, and bipartisan commission to address at least 4 issues: statutory budget controls, comprehensive Social Security reform, and round 1 of both comprehensive tax and health care reform. Everything must be on the table. The Securing America's Future Economy Commission Act, or SAFE Commission Act, H.R. 3654, whose primary co-sponsors are Congressman Cooper and Wolf, is intended to do just that. H.R. 3654 is not perfect, and there are areas that could be improved, but it now has over 90 co-sponsors on both sides of the aisle. One might argue that those who do not sponsor or co-sponsor proposals for changing the status quo are tacitly sponsoring the do-nothing plan. And the do-nothing plan will bankrupt America, and it will not create a better future for our country. In the final analysis, while reasonable people can and will differ, I believe that a commission will likely be necessary in order to achieve timely action in connection with several major reform efforts that lie ahead if we want to avoid a crisis. In my view, we need an action-forcing event. We must remember the Greenspan Commission was created at a time where the checks weren't going to go out on time within a matter of weeks. Believe me, that was an action-forcing event. We need another action-forcing event that is not a crisis. Given the greater public awareness that's needed here and the need, frankly, for Congress to have some cover to make tough choices that people may not otherwise like, in addition to publishing the State of the Union's finances, the Foundation has decided to purchase and support the distribution of a documentary entitled IOUSA. This film addresses 4 key deficits facing America: our budget, savings, balance of payments / trade, and leadership deficits. It will come out in theaters in selected cities in August, before the presidential election. This will be one of many efforts that we will take in order to increase the visibility of this issue and hope that will be a priority for the next President of the United States. We also will have a private showing for members of Congress on Wednesday, July 9th in the evening at the Library of Congress. In closing, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. I do have a 2-minute trailer that I would be happy to show if you so desire, and the members do, of what the film is about. It is staunchly fact-based, nonpartisan, and non-ideological. That's the only way we're going to do anything in this foundation. Thank you.
2 to 3 minutes.